that we're doing on meal planning. This is Kaysie Adkins. She's going to lead our class tonight. She's from the Sevier County UT Ag office.
Yeah.
I also wanted to put a plug in though for our Valentine's Day program. We have Stephen Lynn Bales. He's an ornithologist retired from IAMS. He's going to be doing an excellent program. And then also we have flyers over here from Mama Mia's. They're offering a meal special for Valentine's Day, if anybody's interested in that. And also, I'm going to put a plug in for March, our life skills classes on technology. That'll be March the 3rd at 6 o'clock. It's the first Monday of the month. All right, Kaysie, thank you so much.
All
for
right,
coming
yeah,
to
you're
this for us.
welcome. Hi everybody, so I'm Kaysie. I work at the Ag office, the UT Extension Ag office, but my department is specifically Family Consumer Sciences, which is short for FCS. Which, if you don't know what Family Consumer Science is, that's okay. Nobody else does either. They just changed the name in like 1999, but it used to be called Home Ec. How many of y'all know what Home Ec is? Okay, we're good. Okay, people know what I'm talking about. That's how I usually introduce it, just because, you know, when you change a name, it's hard to, I still call it Home Ec because that's what they called it when I was younger too. So, and so we're going to talk about meal planning today. In our office, in my department specifically, I gave you all a brochure of just everything, what FCS is, some other upcoming programs that we have coming on. So if you're interested and you like this program, we have more, and there's other opportunities for you to come out and do different things with us. And so I'm really excited to be here. And then another thing too I want to explain is there's a little card that I gave you, and that is what I call the parking lot. So if you've ever been a teacher, and you may have heard that type of technique, but what you'll do is you want to write down any aha moments or anything that stood out to you, or even feedback to give me, and also questions to write down that you can bring up at any time. That helps me because and hopefully that helps you to kind of remember those questions you want to ask whenever I get to a point. And then at the very end, there's a little QR code that has a survey. And if you have trouble pulling that up, I can show you how to do that, and we can send in surveys, or you can just kind of tell me verbally how you enjoyed the class. That's just kind of what I do for those options. But yeah, any questions about anything else before I start? Yes.
Were you the person that I spoke to work with the kids here at the library, and then we couldn't get a time figured out?
It might have been. I'm not sure.
Because I think I was going to start with you, but then I got transferred to somebody else, and then she wasn't going to be there at that time, so
Yeah.
I'll just start over again.
I was about to say, it's a very real possibility. We are all super busy in our office, so people just get confused by all the different people we've got in their office. So, but if you do need anything else, just let me know. I'll see what I can do with my schedule. I try to keep it somewhat open.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? All right. So, we're going to talk about meal planning. So with meal planning, what are some of the hardest things that you think about? Like when you think of meal planning, what do you think about? Is it hard? Is it overwhelming?
Healthy food.
Healthy foods, okay, yeah.
Planning.
Planning, yes. Key word, there has to be a plan, right? All right, what else?
Are my people going to eat it?
Are my people gonna eat it? That is a big, big question there. What else?
Can I make 2 meals out of it?
Can I make multiple meals out of it? That's good. What else? Anything else? So those is, go ahead. Cost, yes, actually, yeah, budget is a big deal. And so I personally am a meal planner, so I love this topic because I do it all the time. And so there's a lot of different ways, like we've talked about, like multiple meals. There's a lot of ways where you can stretch your grocery budget and make multiple meals in 1 week. And the biggest thing is that it's all about portion control, which is really hard, especially when you go to a restaurant and they give you like 3 times what you're actually supposed to eat, right? And sometimes they give you a lot less than what you're actually supposed to eat. And so it's all about figuring out what's best for you and what you need specifically. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. We're actually going to do an activity on that in just a minute, but I'm going to continue talking about some meal planning. And I did forget to pass this out, so I'm going to pass this out for y'all. But this is just some of the things I'm going to go over. Oh, that works too. Yeah, thank you. So With meal planning, it takes a lot of planning, right? A lot of the times, the biggest issue with meal planning is that sometimes we'll plan for things and it just doesn't work out because our schedules, right? I feel like everybody in Sevier County, no matter how old you are, you always have something that pops up and you just don't know what to do. Like a friend calls you out of nowhere and says, hey, let's go get dinner, but you've already meal prepped for that night. So what are you gonna do with that food? And so sometimes things just happen. But with meal planning, the best thing to do is to think about is try to plan things in advance the best you can. So if you do know you wanna have a friend over, make a little bit extra for that specific night and then have them over and they can bring groceries and you all can cook together. But it's always looking at what you already have and then versus what you need. And so that's the nice part too with meal planning is that if you plan it out like, okay, I go by months. So I'll look at my monthly schedule and then figure out like, okay, I'm gonna have dinner with my friend this day. So I need to come up with an alternative. Like if we're gonna go out to dinner, I need to think about what options am I gonna have. So I always try to choose places like Cheddar's or something where there's multiple different options on the menu where it's not just like fried food. And so that's another thing with meal planning is that, when you're limited to how much you need and how much you want, those things can go hand in hand. You can enjoy something healthy. You don't have to like gag at it, Because sometimes when you're creating meals, you'll find things online and it'll be like, oh, that sounds good. And then when you taste it, it's not great. And so it's always about trying to be innovative and creative with your own palate because, my meal plan might look completely different from your meal plan. And that's okay. Because for me, sometimes texture is an issue for me. So like when it comes to fruits and things, so I try to freeze dry or dry my fruits so that way they're a little bit crunchier. Like I make my own banana chips, strawberries, things like that, or get them from the store so that I can still have my fruit intake, but I'm just eating it differently than how someone else would have it. And so some people will do that, and also just trying to make vegetables easier to consume, right? Sometimes like I know with kids, so you can't really get them to eat vegetables very well. I know it's really weird. But finding fun condiments to dip it in or even adding that to your lunch can be okay. It's always about trying to figure out what you need versus what you want. And so, for example, we're going to talk about just the My Plate. So how many of y'all have heard of My Plate before? Yes, somewhat. So with My Plate, have you heard of the food pyramid? Mm-hmm. Food pyramid is more, okay. So food pyramid turned into the My Plate. So it's just a better, easier representation of what you need on your plate every day. So there's a little picture of it on that paper I gave you that's on meal planning that kind of gives you a reference. I know it's up there in the corner, but there's dairy, the food groups are dairy, protein, and fruits, vegetables, and I'm missing one, grains. Yeah, thank you. And so for those 5 food groups, depending on your weight, your size, your age, all of that determines, and even your physical activity, all of that determines how much you're supposed to have of each. I know right now there's a huge craze for protein. Has everybody seen that? Where everybody's just putting protein in everything. Doesn't matter what it is, they just throw protein in cake, which I don't know why that would even sound good. But the best things to get from your protein intake is going to be from your vegetables, because you can still get protein from vegetables. You don't have to get it from your legumes, your nuts, and your meats, like your lean meats. You can get them from spinach, things like that. How many, remember, what's his name? Popeye, yeah. And so with Popeye, remembering to eat your spinach, that helps with protein as well. And so some people, especially if you're vegetarian, I don't know anybody's diet styles or their lifestyles, but there's other alternatives to different things for your My Plate as well. It's just figuring out how you can incorporate that into your meal planning. And so there's also with fruits and vegetables, a lot of the times we don't eat enough of those things, right? We think we are, but we're really not. Usually about a cup of vegetables is usually about this much. And most adults, they're supposed to have 3 of these every single day. Yeah. So how many of y'all think you get that every day? Good, that's awesome. Good. And so same with fruit. It's usually about 2 cups of those things, and that can be like orange juice or some strawberries or blueberries or something like that. And then dairy usually is about, I think it's 3 ounces or something like that. But specifically for your, and we'll be able to look at this too. Actually, I'll go ahead and pass this out so you can see it. Do you care to be my person? Thank you. My person. And so on this sheet, you can kind of look at based on your age and also based on your like the calories and stuff, you'll be able to see how much you're supposed to have of each thing. And so you can look at that for a minute. I was just looking at this. I have to pass this sheet out too.
I'll do that one.
Thank you.
Okay.
Here you go, Miss Linda. Yes, so the next sheet you're gonna get is gonna break down calories in 2 based on age and everything. And so this is a really nice worksheet, and we're gonna do the activity that's at the bottom of that first page you got. Where you'll actually kind of come up with your own meal plan after we get done talking and stuff. So the first thing that's on your paper, and we'll talk more about meal planning first. So with meal planning, you need to see what you have. What's in your pantry? What can I use? Are any of y'all canners in here? Food preservation, anything like that? Okay. Not anymore? Well, with canning, of course, you have already almost an endless supply, depending on how much you're doing. To me, I'm a freezer jam type of girl, so I'll make my jam like 2 or 3 months, like a quarter in advance. So I'll make enough for the whole quarter. And so, and then some people will do the same with salsa, like more of that stuff, and then store that, green beans, all those things. So always look at your pantry first and see what you have. How can I use what I already have to make something good? Because most of the time when we get stuff at the grocery store, sometimes we'll kind of push it back somewhere where we can never find it. We were kind of talking about that with flour earlier. And so there's some things like you'll place something somewhere and you won't remember where it's at. And so just trying to remember where things are and just looking through your pantry and seeing what you have. Like for me, I usually will, like you can go and get like honey from Dollar Tree, and I have like 3 of those because I use honey all the time with my protein balls, which I'm going to show you in just a minute. But there's just a lot of things that you can keep in a lot of stock if it's really cheap and you don't want to get out and get it all the time whenever you're about to run low. And so just looking at those things. So how can I use those things in multiple different things so I don't waste that product? Because you don't want to just use that one thing once, if that makes sense. Same with like if you have oats or something like that. You can reuse these and make these peanut butter balls, and you can also use them for no-bake cookies. You can use them for, oats, like if you're making some oatmeal or something like that. But you can use them for a lot of different things and grind them up and all kinds of stuff. Same with peanut butter. There's a lot of different things you can do with that. And so there's some things where it's easy to make various different things with just a few items. Now when you start getting into more of the expensive stuff where you've got like chicken and salad and different things like that, it sometimes feels overwhelming, like we've mentioned, to kind of look at all these ingredients and be like, okay, how am I going to feed myself for an entire week with all of this stuff? And so the best thing to do with meal planning too is that it's okay to have a plan for the month, but you don't want to like make everything a month in advance, if that makes sense. It's best to make it at least a week in advance. Since, of course, like I said, plans change, things happen, things come up. And so that way you're not wasting your grocery budget on something that you may or may not use for that month. And so that's one way to look at that. All right, and then also with mapping out your meals, it's always good too to write down the ideas that you're wanting to do, the recipes you're wanting to use, what ingredients you need. Go ahead and have that grocery list ready to go a week in advance. Because what I do, and this will help you stretch your grocery budget, is I am one of those weird grocery shoppers where I do pickup or I go to 4 different grocery stores to get everything because I want to get the best deal, right? And so it's nice too to use those apps that they always talk about, you know, getting to actually make it easier for your grocery budget to go and just pick things up and then go home and then you have everything you need. Now, there's some places, you know, like Aldi's where you can get everything there, but then when you go look at protein and stuff, their meat selection is usually higher than most other places. And so I've done it so much where I can actually pick and choose. So like at Food City, I usually only get meat from Food City because you can do the buy 5 for $20 deal. And then I'll go to Kroger for almost everything because I'm used to Kroger from where I grew up. And then Publix, I'll get the buy one, get one free deals if they've got anything good. And then Aldi's, I'll usually just get my produce from. And so it's just a whole day. It's just take a whole day out of that. And so it's always good, again, to map out your meals. So when you're thinking about your grocery list, try splitting it up by, okay, I think I'm going to go to Kroger and get cheese, or I'm going to go to Food City and get cheese because they usually have buy one, get one free, which is an awesome deal. And then sometimes at Kroger, you can also get like a buy one, get one free type of deal as well. And so it's just looking at what's convenient for you and what's convenient for your budget as well. So again, that next one, I'm going to pause real quick. Does anybody have any questions so far? Because I feel like I've talked a lot. Yes, go ahead.
So, I don't know if maybe this is something you'll cover, but do you have any particular places that you find recipes or any places that you would put in like what ingredients you have and it would give you suggestions for what you can make?
Yes, so sometimes too, that's a lot of just being creative and just innovative and creating something new. A lot of the times Pinterest is a good option. Another thing is too, I think I tried to use this before, but I didn't really love how the app was set up, but it was a really cool concept. There might be even an app that will be able to kind of take what you have from your pantry on your list and show you a bunch of different recipes too. But most of the time I'll use Pinterest just because those are where you usually find the good food. Like the people that have been tested, it's been tested a couple times. And then I also have some up here too, some recipes that you can take with you at the end. There's a lot of various different things. Two of these they're actually front and back, but I've got like a beef tenderloin and a lemon grilled fish with grilled asparagus, and then some like side snacks and stuff that are really easy to like kind of get more of that fruit and protein intake into your body. But there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of innovate and create something new. Like I know like for me, I think this week I had a shredded carrots kick, I guess. And so I put it in my salad, I put it in my pasta salad, like I put it in almost everything. I put it in my chicken, like when I was sauteing it up, making stir fry. And so there's a lot of different ways where you can take those. It's just trying to figure out where they're gonna taste good. And so hopefully that answered your question. Yeah, go ahead.
Then how would you search something like that? Like you said, an app, like what would you title it, or on Pinterest? What would you title that to find what she's looking for?
Yeah, so specifically, usually, I'll usually, like if I have, let's say asparagus, since I mentioned it. You know, there's not a lot of things you can really pair asparagus with. I mean, unless you're putting it as a side just by itself, right? And so sometimes you can just kind of look up on Pinterest like meals or entrees that go well with this. You can even look that up too on Google, and it'll pop up a lot of different recipes there too. Yeah.
Yeah, I have put 3 ingredients into Google.
Yeah.
Tofu, coconut milk, and asparagus.
Yeah.
And I get 5 recipes.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Google.
Google is good. Yes, Google is good. Yeah. ChatGPT. Yeah. Yes. I don't know. It could work. I don't know. You never know with ChatGPT. There's everything. Any other questions so far? That's okay. There's going to be more time for that, I promise. All right. So I'm going to talk more. We kind of covered a lot about balance. So again, just kind of making sure you've got your variety of different things. So on your worksheet, you can look at your calories, what you think you're supposed to have on that calorie sheet. And then you can kind of compare it to that second sheet where you can look and see how many cups of vegetables, fruits, grains, any of that stuff is. And so that way you can kind of look and see, how, am I getting what I need to get? And a lot of that, again, is going to depend on your level of physical activity. And the way that you can kind of tell that too is just like, you know, are you sitting down a lot? Are you moving? Are you doing normal movement? Or are you doing more exercise? Because there is a difference. My mom was a teacher, so like she would count, you know, walking around the classroom as exercise, which, I mean, it's more of a normal everyday movement. It's not really exercise. But it is hard for teachers, of course, if you've ever been a teacher, to actually get in exercise on top of everything else you're supposed to do. And so as long as you're moving in some way, that's going to be more of that lightly active. Now, if you're doing more exercise classes, do any of y'all go to the senior center at all? Or do any exercise classes here? I don't know if what y'all have got here. Here? Yeah. I was going to say, I know the libraries have yoga and stuff like that, so I didn't know. But there's the community centers and stuff like that too. So doing more of that low impact cardio is stuff that you can count as more moderate, depending on how much you're doing of it. So with moderate, you're doing 150 minutes per week. That's the normal moderate guidelines according to CDC. Now, if you're doing vigorous activity, that means that you're doing about 75 minutes of that per week, but it's like the way you tell it's vigorous is if you can talk and do the activity at the same time. So most of the time at the senior center, most of those are low impact, so people are talking all the time when I'm doing classes over there. But that's okay, because that fosters relationships and, you know, connection. But if you're doing more of that, like running, jogging, or even just kind of more vigorous where it's hard to talk and do that movement at the same time, or even sing, that's going to be more of your vigorous activity. And so, yeah. So hopefully that will help a little bit as you're looking at that sheet. And again, we'll do the activity kind of at the bottom where you get to plan your meal out. And that way we can ask more questions about that. So kind of talked a lot about those. So I'm going to skip those other two unless you all have questions about thinking about your schedule. I think I covered that. And then loving your leftovers. This can be hard. Because sometimes, like we mentioned, you know, you don't want to eat the same thing over and over and over again. And so there's a lot of different ways with your leftovers, especially what you can do. Like it mentions freezing things for later. So I will actually batch cook casseroles because I am cooking for one. I'm not cooking for two people. So again, that's going to look different for everybody. But if you are cooking for one or two people, you can cut up your casseroles into proper portions. And actually, I think Target is actually selling like silicone, like little meal prep containers that you can actually get. But you don't have to use that. You can just use a freezer safe container. And you can just cut up the proper portions and then freeze whatever stuff you're not using. And then just make sure you put it in the fridge so that you don't ever leave. When you take things out of the freezer, you don't ever leave it out on the counter or put it in ice. You want to make sure you put it in the fridge as a transitional piece until it thaws. So that usually takes 1 or 2 days. And then you'll be able to heat it up and put it in the oven and just cook it like you normally do. So usually when I do that for casseroles, I won't cook it. And I only cook a little section of it. So I have like a little Dutch oven thing that I'll just cook a little casserole piece in. But then, so there's some recipes that you can do there too. And then same with like, if you're doing tacos, if you've got a vacuum sealer at home or something like that, you can vacuum seal pork, vegetables, like your corn, things like that, if you want to freeze or use those. The best thing to do, I will say, for those of y'all that are trying to add more vegetables in your diet, and you already might know this, but getting frozen vegetables is a lot easier and cheaper than buying them just straight every single week. And so sometimes it's just easier to do that, and that will make it easier too when you're eating every day. You just kind of get the portion you want out of the freezer bag, roll it back up, put it in a Ziploc freezer safe bag, and put it back in the freezer. If you ever do that with like sweet potato fries, because I love the sweet potato fries, and so I'll make those and, you know, take a little portion out and put it in the air fryer and then take it back out. And so, yeah. So loving your leftovers, so again, making them last as long as possible so you don't have to keep buying those things over and over again. Like, oh man, I bought carrots like at the beginning of this week and I couldn't eat them all. Well, if you buy them in big batches, you can can them. And then you can just get out the portion you want for that week. And so it all depends, and it's hard too, especially if you are cooking for one or two, because again, you are significantly reducing your portion sizes compared to someone who's cooking for 4 or 5 people. And so sometimes too, like, you know, you can go to Sam's Club and get things in bulk, but then what are you going to do with the stuff you don't need? You know, you can make it last for a lot longer. And so, yeah. All right. Does anybody have any other questions related to meal planning specifically? Yes.
Okay, so on the sheet, my daily amounts,
Uh-huh.
under grains and proteins, it's got an EQ. Does that mean equal?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Let me make sure.
3 cups sounds like a lot of dairy.
Yes. Yeah, 3 cups does, yeah, but 3 cups, that can be done as, you know, different things. You've got cheeses and milks and stuff like that. Now, again, if you're dairy-free, there's substitutions that you can do with that, right? So you can use almond milk, or even if you're just trying to watch your dairy intake, because sometimes it can be very fattening, especially if you do the 4% milk. If you go to Cruise Farm and get your milk, I don't know if y'all know where that's at, or if you have your own farm or something like that. But if you're trying to like limit that, you can always get, there's actually cheese at Kroger that's reduced fat. And so you can actually get lower amounts of that. But it's really not as big as you might think if you break it out. But I feel like in the South, more people are to go over that than to go under.
I could drink a gallon of milk in 2 days.
Yeah. So, but 3 cups can be a lot, especially if you're dairy free or if you're watching that, or if you just don't like dairy that much. Some people just don't like milk, and that's okay. But there's alternatives for that too, to still get mostly dairy is to help you get vitamin D and to help your bones and stuff like that grow, and those proteins that are within dairy, because again, that's more protein you're getting from that as well. And so there's ways where you can sub that out and move it around. So you can still get the minerals and the vitamins you need. You just can take away that food group, if that makes sense. Yes?
So what are some empty calorie foods?
Empty calorie foods are gonna be like your honey buns, like the stuff from the Little Debbie, the Oreos, the Reese cups, the stuff where it's more of just like a fast energy boost. So there's more carbs rather than the protein, the fiber, all the things you actually need. Those are going to be the things that are just empty calories. And honestly, a lot of kids are the ones that eat those a lot more. I feel like as you get older, you kind of move out of that phase. But empty calories, or maybe not, it's fine in moderation. It's fine in moderation. And so no judgment. This is a judgment-free zone.
Why do you think I'm here?
But you know, it is empty calories. Like I just recently did a fast with my church. So my fast was fasting from fast food. And it's a lot harder than it sounds, because a lot of that fast food, like those fried foods, that's part of empty calories. Because again, that's like fried stuff. So it's going to mess with your stomach. It's going to give you that fast boost, but it's not actually made with a lot of clean organic material. It's mostly made with, you know, the cheap chicken, you know, the one that they maybe put off to the side and then send to you, you know. And so when you're making more of that stuff at home, it's a little bit more wholer, more cleaner, and easier for your stomach to digest and less empty, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah.
When you were talking about freezing your food,
Yeah.
I don't,
Uh-huh.
unless it's, you know, I have to, like it comes that way.
Yeah.
So when you're making, say I made a lasagna,
Uh-huh.
so you only cook half of it
Ye-
and then freeze it uncooked?
yes. Yes.
Can you
Yeah.
cook it, all of it? And
You-
freeze part of it?
You can, yeah, you can. Yeah, it's just when you cook it beforehand and put it in the freezer, it's going to affect the quality of it when you take it out and cook it again.
Oh,
That is just what I've learned from personal experience. No, nutrients will still stay this. I'm just saying like the quality of the taste. Like it may change when it's been frozen. And that's just because with the freezing, again, all of that, the moisture is gonna it's gonna freeze. And so the thing with lasagna too, you have to be careful because it has a lot of cheese and dairy in it. You can't freeze that for as long as you can something else because dairy doesn't freeze as well. So the longest I think you can freeze dairy products like lasagna, things that are heavy in that dairy is, I want to say 2 months, which I mean, can be like you can probably eat, depending on how big you're making it, can work for 2 months. But again, as it's in the freezer for the longer and longer and longer, it's going to deteriorate the quality of the food when it comes out. Same with canning if you're doing anything like that, food preservation wise too. If that does that answer your question? Yeah, good. All right, any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, so, a lot of what I have read lately has been more focused on like your macros, your carbs, your fats, and your proteins.
Yes.
So, do you break any of this down in that way, or?
So, a lot of the times when I'm teaching this is I'm doing the basics. So this is usually the basics. Now, if you want to get more into macros, which is something that is proven and has scientific background of actually being easy for people to, or not easy, but it actually helps them, especially if they want to get healthier, lose weight, things like that, because you can break it down in a lot of different ways. A lot of to help with the macros to help you reach those goals is all about substitutions when looking at my plate. So again, like Kelly was saying with the dairy, 3 cups seems like a lot, but if you sub it out with reduced fat stuff, you're reducing your fat intake. So again, if you're looking at your macros and your my plate a little bit, it can kind of help making those conversions. Yeah.
I have an app that I use that breaks out the macros.
Yes.
I'm a diabetic.
Yes, ma'am.
I watch carbs.
Yeah.
And MyFitnessPal.
Yes.
It
is very nice. That is the tool I use as well. Yeah.
And it tells you all of that stuff.
Usually you have to pay to look at the macros on there. It'll sometimes tell you for free during the free trial, but usually it'll charge you.
I use the free one. Basically what I'm interested in is
Yeah.
carbohydrates.
Yes.
Because that's what shoots your sugar up.
Is anybody else a diabetic? We got a couple of them. Okay. There's a different my plate for y'all. It doesn't look like that, so ignore that. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. I've got copies in here because I was wondering if I'd have some diabetics.
It's hard for me to give up my bread.
I know, especially.
And taters and cornbread and meal.
And let me see.
You didn't hear that.
Usually with this program, I do a program called Food Fit for You, and I'll actually do hands-on classes where we actually make a diet, like a week-long, like 5 meals for you to do depending on your diet. And so I've done a low-carb one before, and I only have 1 copy of this. I'm so sorry. Okay, I was going to say, this is the plate method for you all. So this is what it looks like. It looks very different. Yes. And so with low carb, if anybody else is interested in a low carb diet, you can do that whether you're diabetic or not. I actually do this because I'm afraid I'm going to become a pre-diabetic because my dad's a diabetic. And so I have to be careful about it. And so with this, you have to choose, low carb vegetables, protein rich foods, and then foods high in carbohydrates is how this one's broken out. Does anybody else want a copy of this? Does everybody want one, or raise your hand, make sure. Yeah, you can make one for everybody if that's okay. Thank you, you're so sweet. And then this one, and I can pass this out to everybody because I'm pretty sure I have enough copies. This is where you can create your own plate based off of some options it gives you for a diabetic friendly meal. And this is actually from the American Diabetes Association. And so they've got a lot of resources too as well to help with that. But I'll pass this out too. Or my beautiful helpers can do that. But it actually gives you alternative options for each of the food groups. So it says fruits, dairies, and so it gives you some different alternatives for those. Did you have a question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was was thinking about oils and how some oils are touted to be a lot better than others. and
Yes.
Should we even fool with any of 4 or 5 of them, you know, it's just not good for you.
Yes, with oils, a lot of the time too, specifically with Mediterranean diets, they actually encourage oils in your diet. And so there's different ways that you can sub them out. For example, like more of the fat-free homemade like vinaigrettes are going to be better for you rather than like ranch stuff that's thicker. And so, yeah. Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, I know. Does anybody know about Cruise Farm Dairy, the ranch? Okay, I was going to say their buttermilk ranch, man, is out of this world, but I cannot buy it because I'm afraid I'm going to just chug that whole thing. And so we were talking about dressings and oils and stuff. And so with that, it is recommended if you want to kind of reduce that in your diet and you want less oils and things, you can sub them out for different things. So like instead of those ranch high fat dressings and things, which usually have a lot of oil, you can trade them out or mix them with different things, but you can trade them out for vinaigrettes. Things are a little bit lighter, or even homemade dressings are a little bit easier to deal with. Same with, we talked about earlier with cakes and things like that. You can actually sub out vegetable oil for different things, like with even that. If you're using like cake boxes, I'll usually use applesauce just because you can get unsweetened and you can barely taste the difference if it's actually in there or not. Sometimes actually, we actually did I was doing it with a high school class when I was student teaching, and we did an experiment with that and actually made the cake denser, like a little less heavy, I guess. And so it was interesting. And so you can kind of play around with it with a lot of different things and substitutions. And you can just look those up too on Google. Google knows everything. And you can look up some different substitutions for different things. Like if you want to sub out butter, you can sub out something else for that and things like that. So yeah, you may have any other questions? I love it. All right, if not, we're going to do the activity that's at the bottom of one of the sheets I gave you, where it has your daily amounts. What I want you to do is I want you to try to make a meal plan for a week, I think is what it's, yes. So I want you to try to use this and make a meal plan. Let's say that's actually not enough room for a week. Let's say 2 days or 3 days. So try to come up with as many meals you can make with the different options you put on there. So let me explain that a little bit better. So underneath those fruits, grains, veggies, all the things that are listed there, try thinking about different options that you can put within those different categories and food groups. And then once you come up with some different options, and you can work with your group, like work with a group on this, and you can always ask me questions with people at your table. But I want you to look at the different options that you write out, and then I want you to see how many meals you can make with those different options, okay? And so go ahead and work on that. And you can even use the Create Your Plate from the diabetes thing to kind of give you some reference of some different fruits and vegetables you can put on there. And see if you can come up with different meals and ideas that'll work good for your calorie intake and how much you need. And if you have questions, I'm right here. Don't be afraid to ask. Be under oil. Now, if you're doing like more, actually no, I take that back. Yeah, it'd be just under oil because usually dressings, as much as they can become bad for you depending on how much you're consuming, for the most part, they could be a healthy oil, just as long as you're not consuming too much. I know some. Oh. So while y'all are doing that too, I'll talk about portion sizes because I did forget to mention this too. So to kind of help you figure out the different ounces and stuff, your palm is 3 ounces. So if you have a piece of meat that's about the size of just this middle part of your palm, that's 3 ounces. Now, a cup of a food is usually about the size of your fist. So if you're out to a restaurant and you're like, man, I don't have my measuring cups with me, dang it, what am I gonna do? You can think about it like this, different hand motions. The tip of your thumb is about a tablespoon. Now some thumbs might be bigger than others, some might be small. A tablespoon. Yours might be a teaspoon, honey, but yeah. Again, this is an estimate. This is an estimate. And then your thumbnail is a teaspoon. Yeah. And then a deck of cards is also about 3 ounces of serving. You might have heard that one before. A softball is 2 cups. So if you know how big of a softball is, that's about 2 cups of whatever that food item is. A baseball is 1 cup. Tennis is half a cup. And then a cupped hand is half of a cup. So this is a cup. This is half of a cup. If that makes sense. Yeah. And if you want, I have these little laminated things. If I'll pass these around. And if you want to take a picture of it, you can keep it on your phone. You can just kind of look at it. But most of the time when we're out to eat, we just don't really worry about it. But it's just something to keep in mind whenever you are out. But you can pass those around.
Lots of times in restaurants, the serving sizes are really huge.
Yes.
We usually bring home sometimes half or 3/4 and get a bunch more meals out.
Yes, that is a good way to love your leftovers. Yeah. And a lot of the times too, like especially if you go to Olive Garden, a lot of the times if you measure it out, like I have never brought a measuring cup to Olive Garden, I just want you to know. But if you think about it in the terms of cups and how much you need of the grains and stuff like that, usually with Olive Garden it's about a 1/3. Like you can get 3 meals out of just 1 bowl of pasta most of the time. Same with the salad. You can almost measure out kind of thinking about how many cups you would get there. Which of course with salad most of the time it's good, but again, there's a lot of oil because they like really slather on that Italian dressing. And so depending on, the fat levels in that and how much that is, because you can even look at like the Olive Garden in the bottle that they sell in the store, you can kind of even look and compare like, okay, how much are they really putting in 1 bowl? And so you can kind of see that too. But yeah, definitely thinking about that when being more, I like to call it mindful eating, because most of the time when we go out to eat, or if we're even out with friends and we're just kind of hanging out, not even thinking about it at parties or anything like that, we will just kind of eat like we've never eaten before, or we'll just kind of snack on a lot of different things. And so just kind of being more mindful of your everyday, what you're doing and what you're eating and consuming. The best way to do it too, if you all are here to like think of ideas and of like how to lose weight, controlling what you're eating, the best thing to do is to keep a food journal. I have been doing that for almost, I think it's been about 5 months now. And that has changed the way that I look at food and how much I consume it, just because I'm more mindful of it. Same with MyFitnessPal. That's a food journal because you're typing in however much you're eating. And so using different techniques, whether it's an app, whether it's just a notepad or something you keep in your purse, something to write down about how much you're eating, or even just like journaling it. If you're a journaler, every night you journal something in your notebook, you can journal how much you ate. How your food affected you is a big thing you add in your food journal. So not just how much you ate, but also thinking about what you ate today and how it affected you emotionally, physically, and sometimes even spiritually. Because even when you're like, for me, when I would eat fast food every now and then, just because with my job, I could be in Seymour at 6 or 7 o'clock, and I haven't eaten dinner yet. I'm just gonna be honest, I haven't eaten dinner. And so sometimes when I go home, I'll be just stopped from fast food, and then I really didn't even need fast food because I'm not even, like right now, I'm not even that hungry, but I just think I am because it's dinner time, right? And so sometimes you just writing down like, okay, how did I really feel when I got that, you know, Arby's 6-piece nugget or something? And how did that make me feel later? Usually not very good, I'll tell you that. And so just being more mindful of your eating is a good way to kind of help with that too. So, all right, is everybody okay with the activity? Feel good about meal planning and that kind of on-the-job practice a little bit? All right, I know we've only got a few minutes left, but I promise this will not take long. This is a super easy recipe that you can do at home. And like I said, I do have recipes up here. And to make this more food safe, I did get my nails done. If you all don't know, getting your nails done actually, and just working with meat or anything else when you're about to serve people is not good. And so sometimes I'll just have these little gloves with me, which they look super funny, especially when I'm cooking at home, because I just don't want all that added bacteria, but that's just my background. You do whichever you want. Yeah. And so with this recipe, these are called peanut butter energy balls. Now, and these are freezer safe. I will make these in bulk. I love this recipe. It should be on one of these papers. I can't remember which one, but I think it's this one where the side items are. But it's super easy. So literally all you do, and you can use, so non-fat dry milk, this is just to get a little bit more protein in there. This is not like but this stuff can be expensive, so just think about that. So I'm part of the group where I'm trying to get more protein in my diet, so I actually use protein powder instead of this, into this. And so again, this is where you can get creative, okay? And so I've been doing this for so long, so I'm not using exact measurements. I just want y'all to know. But you'll just use a little bit of this stuff, and I usually just cover the bottom of the bowl. And then I usually use oats, but you can also use Frosted Flakes cereal that doesn't have sugar in it. You can use this. I can't think if there's another one, but any type of cereal. Some people use multi-grain Cheerios too with this, so you can use pretty much anything. And so I'll put a little bit in there. And then chocolate chips can be your little sweet thing in there if you want it to be. Or you can use dried fruit. That's one that I like. So sometimes I'll crunch out my dry strawberries or my cranberries or my raspberries and just kind of put them in there and kind of make like some, again, kind of more like a cookie rather than just, you know, plain. But you can do these plain too. That's okay. All right, and then also honey. So also with allergy season, fun fact, if you get some local honey, this can actually help with your immune system. And so you can do that. I'm too cheap and I always forget to just buy local honey because I'm still new around here. I just moved here from Kentucky about 2 years ago, so I don't know where all the local honey's at. So I just use Dollar Tree. But you can just put a little bit in there, however much you want. This is up to your discretion. And I'm going to put more in here. I promise this is not all. I'm going to make enough for everybody. All right, and then I use peanut butter. And I promise it'll all be incorporated, but this is so peanut butter, again, it does have fat in it, but that protein is nice and you can always sub it out with something else. So I think there's almond butter. You can probably use Nutella. I haven't done it yet, but I know some people have and it's pretty good. But you can use kind of whatever sticky. I might have to use my hands. This is not working.
And you don't cook the oats?
Huh?
You don't cook the
Nope. Nope. You don't.
So do you ever use the pure peanut butter that doesn't have all the additives and things in it? Sugar and...
Yes. 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 Sorry, I had to think about that.
Because I used to get it at Fresh Market, and then I found out up in Full Gas and yogurt, and they sell it for about half of what Fresh Market. So it's nothing but just pure peanuts ground.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, it's very good to use more of the natural stuff. This was just on our food budget. But yes, you can use definitely different alternatives. That's what I really like about this recipe, because you can really use just about anything you have on hand. And that's really the nice part too about meal planning, because again, you're using what you already have and trying to incorporate it into a lot of different things that can be good for you. So,
Now, you mentioned protein powder.
yes, ma'am.
So, is there a protein powder that is not loaded with sugar?
There are some. You really have to look at the, it's good to look at multiple different places. I know that Walmart's got some stuff that's an option. Target will have deals where it's buy one, get one half off of nutritional supplement items. And that's usually where I get my protein, because they have organic protein powder, which has more, isn't so loaded with a lot of different things. I've also tried protein shakes, the Premier Protein. Not a huge fan, I'm just going to say personally, but I know a lot of people do like it, like in the morning. Because some say, like, there's some diets out there that are like 30, 30, and 30. Have y'all heard of that? Where the first 30 minutes of your day, you eat 30 grams of protein and work out for 30 minutes. And so that's some way that some people have actually lost a lot of weight, is doing that. But I don't know if that's from... Okay, I'm getting really messy. I'm sorry, Seymour Library. I wasn't expecting to get this messy. I thought the spoon would do its work, but yeah, you just kind of incorporate all these things together. And I know it looked like I used a bunch of peanut butter. I apologize. But that is kind of how much you use, because you got to make it into a ball. But of course, this is up to your discretion when you take this at home, how much you want to use, what you want to sub it out for. And
You eat a day of those. I mean, not
usually I will eat, because mine's got protein in it, and I usually eat about 3, and then I freeze the rest. So I make big batches. It's like my equivalent to cookies and things.
so they do freeze.
Yeah, they freeze very, very well.
So how long does it take for one to defrost?
Last time I did it, I think it was like, I meal plan a week ahead of time. So I'll usually get out the things that are in the freezer Friday night or Saturday morning, and it'll be ready by Monday. So I just kind of think about that when I'm planning. Like, okay, I want a little portion of casserole Monday night. So I'll make sure everything's out Saturday morning, Friday, and then by the time I get home from work on Monday, it's ready to be put in the oven, and I don't have to do any of the prep work, which is nice. Yeah. Okay, this is going to be really messy, but I brought plates, and they're not going to be super hard because I didn't put them in the freezer. I didn't think about that. Probably should have done this first, but it's okay. This is the first time I've done this. So if you want to give me feedback, say...
Do you want me to come help?
Yeah, if you want to, that'd be awesome, Kelly. You're the bomb. Okay.
And I guess you use quick oats.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. I usually use Quick Oats. And we, as an extension agent, I do have to say this. We, as UT Extension, do not endorse any specific brands. I just want to say that. This is just what we got. But you can use whatever brand you want. What?
I'll put your gloves
Yeah, that's fine. I've got plenty there, so. Okay.
Tell me how you want me to do.
Yeah, so I'm just going to give one ball to each person. If there's any extra, I'll make more as I make them. But sorry, I'm going over a little bit.
Oh, it's okay. It's fine. You've done so great.
Thank you. They might be a little crumbly, so I apologize in advance.
Okay.
But they'll still taste good.
Okay. Big batches, yes. Have you heard of the pea protein?
Yes, I have not tried it yet, but I've heard of
haven't
it.
either. I was just reading about that. That might be something. Have you heard of pea protein powder? Have you tried it? Okay, I haven't tried it either.
But it's supposed to be like a protein that's sugar-free. I don't know. I was reading about it. That's why I was asking if you've had it.
I'm thinking I saw some of the Sevier low, no sugar at Food City.
Maybe it's not sugar added. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
it was like that, but I didn't pay much attention to it.
I was reading about that earlier this week, though. I haven't had it.
There's one. And to add more peanut butter.
And I think Kroger's is a little more higher.
These gloves are falling off of me. You know,
So
you
do you
put,
do the freeze drying?
so we actually have a freeze dryer at our office.
Okay.
Yeah, so we just invested in that. So I'm hoping to do some freeze dryer classes soon. Woo! Okay, how are they so far? Extra crumbly? Good. You know, you practice this over and over again, but
That's okay.
it doesn't always do what you want.
Is it good?
Like I said, I like to sub them out with dried fruit. That's a really good substitution, but I like the chocolate chips as like a cookie sweet option for like dessert.
Like raisins would be good.
Yeah, raisins are good. Ooh.
So 4 more. Because I want one.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. I'll have leftovers. Oh no, I'll need another glove. This one ripped. Dang it.
Okay. Wait a minute. We'll make it pretty.
Yeah. Make it pretty.
Ready? Okay. Perfect. Right.
Yes, yes. Work it, yes.
Dance our media.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I'm so sorry. Just tell me where the broom is and I'll clean this up after
Don't worry
I'm
about
done.
that. Don't worry about that. You know we have to sit all the chairs and tables. It'll be fine.
Okay.
This is way less than what the craft kids come in here and
I
get
bet.
glitter and sprinkles everywhere.
I bet. And then remember on those little cards I gave you, if y'all don't care to scan that QR code and fill out a survey for me, or if you do not know how to use the QR code, you can just come up and tell me as you're getting recipes from up here if you want. Just tell me what you thought of the class, some things that feedback you want to give me, anything like that also works too. But I appreciate y'all coming tonight and I hope you enjoyed it. And like I said, we do have some more programs in that brochure, and you can always visit my website, which is sevier.tennessee.edu/FCS. Really simple.